Yoshiki is the one wearing the bandana with red
Yes.
hair. And
Nice to meet you
Kiichiro is the one.
again.
Oh,
and-
we've met before, haven't we?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, I was the one with the tattoo on my chest.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember it very well.
Thank you very much.
And Hawk is the one with the cat.
Hello.
Oh, you have a cat. Hello. How are you?
Yeah, next to. And Naoto is the kind of the editor, but I think he will be also the moderator for this panel.
まず最初にお聞きしたいのはですね、以前にですね、40,000 Years of Dreaming というオーストラリア映画の歴史をアボリジニの夢の、論理と物語から、ジョージ・ミラー監督が解説するというドキュメンタリーがありました。その中でですね、もちろん、ジョゼフ・キャンベルの千の顔を持つ英雄であるとか、そういったことのお話も出てきたわけですけども、今回主人公のアリシアは、物語論の研究者であるがゆえに、物語にコミットせずに生きてきた人が最終的に物語の語り部となるというような話で、ジンというのはもちろん物語を語るというところに彼の本質があるわけですけども、今回の映画に関して言えば、その中で、この人が生きる上でのその物語の役割と重要性ということについて、監督がどのように考えているかお聞かせ願いたいと思います。
The story, I think we're hardwired for story. I think there's no question. Because in every aspect of our lives, whether it's as individuals, whether our own personal stories with our intimate friends and family, whether it's our culture, our sporting team, our community, our nation, our history, the full anthropological sweep of human history, are all made coherent by stories. I think there's no question about that. And when you mention 40,000 years of dreaming, the Australian Indigenous culture is the longest extant continuous culture, only in some parts of Australia, that of any human culture. It is continued. I've been to places where there are paintings in caves that were at least 8,000 or 9,000 years old and had recently been updated as the story of the Indigenous culture continues. So we know it goes back even at a time when people have very little technological knowledge, and yet their stories put them in touch and makes meaning of the greatest mysteries that all the mysteries around them, and just as they are today.
物語の話でもう一つ僕から伺いたいことがあるんですけども、今回の、映画に関してですね、今、物語のヒストリーと言ってますけども、物語あるいは歴史ですね。ヒストリーに対抗する概念としてハーストーリーというのがあるわけですね。で、これは女性の立場から語られる、そこから見られた物語ということで、それが反映されているがゆえに、僕の解釈では、例えば、芝の女王から見た物語である、つまりハーストーリーであるがゆえに、ソロモン王を彼女が訪ねるのではなくて、ソロモン王が彼女のことを訪ねてくると。で、その時に、ソロモン王は芝の女王に質問をしますね。女性が本当に望むものは何かって問われて、それを与えることができたのはソロモン王なんですけども、これが、僕が見ていて、それは、すなわち、ハーストーリーを語り継ぐことではないかと思ったんですね。というのも、この映画について、3つの物語がジンから語られますけども、それは全てハーストーリーなんですね。で、それは、語られずじまい終わってしまった女の人の物語ということで、であるがゆえに、ジンが介在しない、間のですね、ムラと4世と、それからイブラヒムは、なんていうの、そのヒストリーの方の人物であるがゆえに、ハーストーリーがないということで、ジンが介在する余地がないと。そうすると、ジンがやっていることというのは何かというと、そのハーストーリーをジンが語っているということなんですけども、結局その語り部の役割を、最終的にアリシアが自分で引き受けて、それを自分のハーストーリーを語る主体として引き受けたから、この映画がそういう、彼女が語るおとぎ話というか、その神話の形としてサンドイッチされているというふうに考えているんですけども、そのあたりはどうでしょうか。
To be honest, it had never occurred to me precisely what you say, but it's very true. In fact, every story ultimately is about her, of something being unresolved about her, about women in the world across time. And you're right, the jinn is absent from the story of the two brothers.
Right.
But Alethea sees herself as an observer of stories, a scholar of stories, and doesn't actually become, in a sense, more fully realized until she actually has her own story.
Right.
She diminishes her story. She says, my stories are small and irrelevant, whereas your stories are so grand and magnificent. And yet she is able to tell that story finally in the end. It was never as precisely explained, but what you say, I think, is very astute. It reminds me, you said similar things about Fury Road all those years ago.
Thank you.
And, you know, I was thinking about you the other day. You came to my mind because I remember that conversation you had and we had. And I remember that that when you showed me that tattoo, I was... I'd never experienced anything like that before. I'd had people who tattooed themselves with characters of the movie, and that's quite that for a storyteller is quite a moving thing, quite a humbling thing, because it means something to people more than I ever hoped it would, and that's a wonderful thing. But I'll never forget both the conversation we had and this one reminds me of it in the same way, I must say.
Thanks so much. I'm very moved too. Thank you.
僕はそのティルダ・スウィントンさん、今回ヒロインを演じているティルダ・スウィントンさんが当代最高の俳優であって、老若男女どんな役でも演じられる大変驚くべき役者だと常々ずっと思ってるんですけれど、その彼女をそもそもこの映画に選ばれてどういうふうにですね、そのカメレオン的な部分とかいうことも含めて、彼女の作業はどんなようなものだったのかっていうのをちょっとまずお聞きしたいです。
First of all, when you make films and as a director, there are some actors, a handful of actors for me, that the experience of working with them are exemplary. That you feel in some way you're working with a masterful actor. And Tilda is one of a handful of actors I've worked with over 40 years now that I believe are like that. And it's not because they're just good actors. They are complete human beings, I believe. They are wise. They are always curious to learn. They're great because they have a humility about them, which is to keep improving and enhancing their knowledge and their art, and most of all, they're highly collaborative. They are actors who know that working as a team at every level, every member of the crew, the other actors, and so on, are all part of a team. and that's in there every piece, every action. Apart from that, she is an actor of tremendous skill, who is able to is able to find a way to put it on screen. Every director has worked with Tilda gets addicted to working with her. She works with the same directors over and over again. It's like a club, and I know why. The moment I finished this film, I began to think, when will it ever be possible for me to work with Tilda again?
この映画のアリシア役ですね、はティルダのすごくセクシャルな部分にも触れているものだと思うんですね。で、彼女の性的な魅力っていうのが、知的なセクシネスというか、まさに知性そのものがセクシーであるっていうことを体現している役だと思うんですけれど、それは例えばジンが語る物語っていうのが、2人の求愛行動になっている物語自体が性的な意味ですごく感じるものだっていうのと呼応しているっていうところがこの役が彼女にとって本当に素晴らしい役だったんじゃないかと思うんです。
Yes, they. I mean, they both characters. You obviously, when you're dealing with two characters or any characters, it's the interaction between the characters that interests us. Interests us as audiences, and of course, she is a creature of reason, and he is a creature of emotion. And in many ways, they find that interaction. She learns to, or she becomes basically a creature of her emotion once she allows herself to even dare to have longings or make a wish. And the jinn himself realizes that it's something that he cannot give when someone asks to be loved. As she says, love is a gift of oneself. And so they kind of swap roles in a way. And in that way, I think, I hope there is a sense that they become, I guess, more complete or more rounded human beings.
I see.
I hope that's something that is felt by an audience.
ありがとうございます。
じゃあ私から、監督のいくつかの映画で共通して見られる構図があると思います。それは役に立たない男に対して自立した女という構図です。で、今回例えばジンという男は挫折をしていて基本的に役に立たない。で、彼をアリシアという女性が救う物語と僕は見ました。で、例えば以前のフューリーロードもそうでした。マックスという壊れた男がフュリオサという女との出会いを経て人間性を回復する。で、これらを通して僕は、男らしさとか男の強さにこだわるのはやめろというメッセージを受け取っているんですが、そんな解釈でいいでしょうか。
First of all, you could argue that in both films, they each rescue each other. In many ways, the jinn helps rescue Alethea, and I would say that, I mean, what you say is true, but it goes both ways. It has to, and I think with between Furiosa and Max, that's clearly the case. I mean, he in the final instance in Fury Road becomes the facilitator of her of her want, which is to find redemption by finding the green place. And so it does cut both ways. But I think you're right. I don't know what it's like in other places of the world, but I have a strong sense that is a cultural shift that has happened over time, whereas men, with the industrial age, men, the physical strength of men became, I think, less important, because essentially great machines have taken that over. So there are other dimensions of the human being, the more, if you like, female behavior, the more nurturing, the more it is something that I think hopefully is evolving more. I don't know. For me, it's something I've noticed over time. I grew up in a basically all male culture. I had 3 brothers, no sisters. I grew up in a rural community, and all my play was the play that boys do in the bush, on horses, building things, and so on. I went to an all boys school. I went to university and studied medicine at a time when very few females were studying medicine. I think 25% of my class were female, and that's all shifted. My mother was someone who grew up in a very patriarchal family, and she ultimately was the most influential person, along with my father. But it was, and in the meantime, I've had my firstborn was a daughter, and I got to see her. So I've shifted, and I think with that shift, I've observed it in the culture, at least in my country, and what I see in many other cultures as well. It's less. I mean, it was much more. It was much more difficult for females. Even at the time of my, when my mother was born, much more. She without going on too long, she was the firstborn in her family. She was only allowed by her father to study for school at a certain period, and then he wanted her to learn dressmaking.
No.
And yet her 3 younger brothers all were tertiary educated. And that shifted dramatically now. By way of example. Yeah.
ちょっと最後に一つだけ伺いたいんですけども、本作の、その特にジーンが語る3つの物語ですね。芝の女王と、高級の女の子と、それから知識を求める女の子ですね。この3人に関して、彼女たちの願いをそれぞれジーンが魔法で叶えたということになってるんですけども、あの3人はジンの魔法がなくても、そもそもの最初の願いは自分で叶えることができたんじゃないかっていうふうに僕は考えていてですね。とすると、ジンは結局その媒介としての役割を果たしているけれども、彼女たちにとってでは、魔法っていうのは、なんだろうな、それができるっていう、どちらかというと心理的な後押しのようなものだというふうにも見えるんですけども、そこのところはどうでしょうか。
Oh, yes, yes. Again, that's very, very insightful. Yes, I agree. I think that's true. In a way, he's a facilitator in most cases. And again, I never thought about it. It's true. Which is one of the things.
Thank you so much.
I love about storytelling because most stories, even those that appear not to be, are allegorical, one way or the other, meaning that they have some poetic dimension, meaning that they are to be interpreted according to the world view of each individual member of the audience. And I think it's very important to, people talk about open narrative, to keep something for the audience to interpret themselves. And I found that over and over again, whenever you offer up a story to people, that people take from it what is important to them. And that's one of the exciting things as a filmmaker, to see those various interpretations. And it's one of the things you have to be aware of when you're telling stories, to say didactically that this is what the story must mean to you is not very sensible, and is not what stories are for. That's not to say you don't have to work very, very hard. You must work very hard in order to tell a story which engages an audience in some way, which basically invites them into the experience of the film. But the experience becomes their own.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And
we finished.
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah. Look, thank you for
どうもありがとう。
thank you for your questions and your thoughts.
Talking to you.
今、フュリオサの編集中ということなんで、映画が無事、早く完成して見られることを祈ってます。
Yes, 1 year of editing, and I've just come out of the editing room. And
oh, you are okay.
Yes, and it's been it's interesting. I can't wait for you to see it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we're all dying to see it. That's for sure. Well, anyway, we thank all the four gentlemen for joining us today, and we have to move on because you have a screening Q&A at the end of today.
Thank you.
Arigatou
I'm very
gozaimasu.
grateful.
ありがとうございます。